When it comes to looking at a computer, there's really two kinds of people. There are those folks who really do prefer to work in a world of icons and tools and drop-down menus and all the things that are presented to us in a graphical user interface. And then there are those who really believe that the mouse just gets in the way of the typing. They want a command prompt where they can type out commands and then view line after line of response information. It's textual. It's a command line interface. The initial installation and configuration of NSX really focuses in on what? The graphical interface, right? But when we're looking for speed, a lot of information dumped very quickly. Locality, we're trying to view information from a very specific local perspective, not up at the NSX manager, but what does the virtual machine really believe? Or when troubleshooting, and we're sometimes looking for details of information that aren't available in the GUI, then we find that the command line interface, typing out commands, is going to be to our advantage. So guess what, my friend? In this nugget, you're going to learn how to use the CLI to view NSX edge device properties. So when it comes to accessing the command line interface of an edge device, there's kind of a back door and a front door. The front door would be to directly access the system by using a protocol like Secure Shell. So we can fire up a client like PuTTY and then directly connect to an accessible IP address. But in this case, I get an error. The connection is refused. And when we read that error, that means I was able to get to that IP address, and it said, no, we're not going to play the Secure Shell game. And that's because the configuration of this device has Secure Shell disabled. So let's go ahead and enable that, which can be done during the creation of a device, or if we're on the Manage Settings Configuration tab, we can just click the Enable next to Secure Shell and say yes. Let's bring PuTTY back up again and try that. Now it's ready to allow us access based upon the thumbprint. We'll log in using the credentials set up for this device. And we're in, now accessing the command line interface of this device. But remember, the CLI for NSX Edge devices is passive. We're not able to change configurations. The primary things we're going to do here are show and ping in order to troubleshoot and see what's going on in our environment. Over here at the prompt, if we type in a question mark, we get a list of the types of commands we can execute. And down at the bottom, notice there's show, ping, and traceroute, three of the most commonly used commands. Let's type in show and a question mark, and it will list out for us the various different things that the command line interface is willing to show us. Let's do show IP question mark, and we can see individual address information. We could see how BGP is set up. We can see what the current routing table looks like, all important information. Let's try show IP address, and we can tab complete if we type in the beginning of any one of these keywords in the CLI and press enter. And there we have our interfaces and the IP addresses that are associated with each of those. If we type in show IP route and press enter, there's our current routing table. We can see we've learned to route from BGP. Notice that B on the left-hand side. Let's try show IP BGP. Enter. And there's our current BGP database. If we do show IP BGP and a question mark, the reference here to carriage return indicates that we can do the command that we just did earlier, show IP BGP carriage return, enter, and just get some results. But we also could get more information specifically about neighbors if we add another keyword, neighbors, after the show IP BGP. So let's try that, show IP BGP neighbors. And now we can see the information about our relationship with a dynamic routing protocol partner, as well as details about the number of messages that have been sent back and forth, the IP addresses, the ports that are being used, all really relevant information to see what's going on. Now that's enough to get us started for now. Let me go ahead and close PuTTY. We said there's a back door and a front door, and that was really the front door. We connected to the IP address of the router itself using PuTTY and got access to the CLI. But this is a virtual machine, and as such, there is a back door. I can go to VMs and templates, and I can actually track down this particular virtual machine, select it, head to the Summary tab, and then click directly on its thumbnail to gain access to a console interface. Log in here, and once again, if I do show IP route, for example, there's that same routing table. This is the same command line interface, and this is particularly useful if I'm dealing with an edge device that I can't access directly from my desktop using PuTTY. Well, my friend, by going through this nugget, you've learned how to access an edge device using the command line interface, using a remote console tool like PuTTY, or by using VMware's console interface. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.